Welcome to Bill and Amon's Bogus Hangout. Have some guests with us already. Have them introduce themselves. Doc?
Hello, I'm Doc. I'm not very talkative today. Doc Sheldon, Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Assuming if there's somebody tuned in.
Is that it? That's all you're going to say?
That's all I'm going to say.
All right. I'm Tim Calling, a servant's heart web design and marketing. And, well, gosh, I can be a man of few words, too. Happy Independence Day for folks that celebrate U.S. holidays.
And happy Canada Day for the folks that up in Canada that had it the other day.
That's right. And dare we speak of birthdays?
No.
No? Okay, we won't speak of birthdays.
So the United States is having a birthday tomorrow.
That's true. That's true.
And I'm Bill Slosky. I'm the author at SEO by the Sea, and I am the director of SEO research at Go Fish Digital. And I'm not having a birthday.
Oh, I'm not having a birthday. We'll just leave it at that, I guess.
Sounds like a good plan. So, Doc,
Yo.
next week, you and I are both in a SEO audit.
Yeah, you, me, and Kevin.
Search
Geek Speak. That's going to be a fun one.
It's next Wednesday afternoon.
It's next Wednesday. I'd have to check my calendar. I don't recall the hour, but my guess is it's probably 1 Eastern. That's when David usually schedules that stuff.
Right, which makes it in the morning.
Would be 10 our time.
Yeah.
It'd be so much easier if we would just switch to 24-hour time like the rest of the world.
Let me just check my calendar real quick as long as we're here. And I'll tell you because I wasn't sure and I asked Dave the other day so I could make sure I had it set up properly. It is, 10 a.m. our time.
Would 24-hour time make that much of a difference?
Well, if it was 1300 Eastern, then you'd know that we're 3 hours behind us. That's 1000 here. So,
I'd be happier just to see him give up daylight savings and stay.
Oh yeah.
The profile I use to set up this hangout is one that Ammon created.
That explains a lot.
When I set it up in YouTube, it's UK based. It's on UK based time. When I then go to set it up in Google Plus, because you have to set it up in both, the same profile goes on Pacific time. So it's not consistent.
Well, it's Google technology, right? So
that almost sounds like Microsoft might have consulted on that one.
Yeah.
It's possible. Yeah. Could we get rid of that daylight savings time?
I don't know. Politically, it was a big deal when it was passed. I'm not sure whether it would be hard to get it removed now or not. That would be a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It's supposed to help farmers?
I think that was the theory.
I mean, they need daylight to milk cows?
Well, Doc, I don't know. Isn't that what you've heard too?
To me, farming. I was ranching, not farming, but it's basically the same difference in that it's a lot like SEO. It's pretty much if you're awake, you're working.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be light out or dark out. It just there's always something that needs to be done. I guess it's difficult to move stock in the dark, especially cattle. They don't like to move in the dark. They don't like to be awake yet. Okay, and they get skittish. But
sounds like me.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know what the reasoning was behind it, other than there are people that see that they say it's nice because they're getting home. They're not getting home after dark. They're actually getting home. And they still have a couple hours of daylight to play with at certain times of the year, and which I guess that's valid. It is. I have enjoyed that at times, but now I don't get up and get in my car and go to work or come home from work, so I don't really care.
Well,
it's just a pain in the butt because, like, I realize I know what my GMT time is, and I know that I'm 3 hours behind Eastern, but there are parts of the United States that refuse to adhere to daylight savings,
like Arizona.
And it's like right now I've got family down south here that part of the year they're 2 hours ahead of me, and part of the year they're 3 hours ahead of me because they don't play that game, and it's difficult to keep track of, and you feel like a nitwit if you have to go to Google every time to ask current time in Sydney, current time in Mexico City. Goddamn, you've been talking to these people for 25 years, you still don't know you got a 2 hour time difference? Sometimes.
Well, if he's in London or near London or thereabouts, then that would be Greenwich Mean Time, right?
Yeah.
And they don't observe daylight savings time, right?
I don't know.
I don't think they do.
They do, but they change time zones at a different time than the U.S. does.
Well, sure.
I mean, it's like 2 weeks earlier or 2 weeks later.
And to make things really interesting, there's a few zones out there that aren't. Their daylight savings is in half-hour increments.
Oh, neat.
Really? So, this place might be 2 hours ahead of you. This place might be 3 hours ahead of you. This place over here is an hour and 30 minutes ahead of you. It's bureaucracy, I guess. If there's a way to make it more complicated, let's.
Well, now, let's see. Is it Zulu time that the U.S. military uses?
Yeah, Zulu.
And that's what the international dateline, right?
Yeah.
So if we all just use some standard like that and got used to the idea that, daylight might begin at 2200 Zulu for some people, but still, if we were all using that, then wouldn't that be easier? I don't know. As the world becomes more and more sort of shrunk by virtue of all this communication we have now with the internet and everything, maybe we will.
Zulu makes more sense that way. That was the whole concept behind it. It was just to get rid of any potential communication mishaps in the military.
Yeah.
It says we're going to do this at 0730 Zulu.
Yep.
And then it didn't matter if you were in Bangladesh or Washington, D.C., that's when it was going to happen, all simultaneously.
So that could apply to non-military use now as well. I don't know. It won't happen in our lifetimes. It's too long.
I figure I got stuff in the refrigerator that still won't be spoiled in my lifetime.
Well, that sounds scary.
I'm not planning on sticking around that much longer. Things are getting weird. If people start talking about re-electing our current president, I'm thinking, oh my Lord, I don't know if I really want to be here for that.
Well, let's see. You really want to get into politics?
No. Well, I do want to make a comment on politics, and this isn't a political position. In Mexico, they had Sunday was the election for the presidential election, and it's kind of a heartening thing to me because AMLO is a third party. Okay, it's Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador is the new president-elect, and he has tried 3 other times with slightly increasing chances of success, but never enough to do it. The last time, I think he might have actually won, but the incumbent party managed to steal it from him.
They counted the votes.
They counted the votes, exactly, and lost a whole bunch and added a few in and whatnot. But
do they have their own version of electoral Congress?
Their own version of what?
Electoral Congress?
They don't use an electoral college. They actually go by popular vote.
And they have somebody in the back room counting those.
They have well, strangely enough, the incumbent party is responsible for doing that. The people that are in power today are responsible for overseeing that. So it's kind of hard to oust the incumbent party. Anyway, he won, and this is what mind-blowing. They had over 80% voter turnout.
Wow.
And it is totally optional here. You don't. It's not a mandatory thing. That major bump from previous years where they sometimes hit as high as 50-51%.
Huh.
But it was largely youth that got him in. And he's a very reform-oriented guy. I have high hopes. He scares the hell out of me, though, because he is adamantly refusing to use Secret Service.
Oh, you mean that protective detail?
Protection, yeah. He says, no, I refuse. Now,
is he the one who turned down the pension that?
He is going to only draw 30% of his presidential salary.
Yeah.
He refuses to use the $700 million aircraft that some previous president bought not too many years ago. He will not live in the presidential palace. He has a home that's considerably smaller than mine. That's where he's going to reside. He may rent a place in Mexico City so that he's close to his office, but he's not going to live in the palace. He's not going to use the airplane. He says he won't even use a helicopter. He's not going to use a limousine. He says if he has to go any place, he'll either take his own car or a taxi or a train or a commercial air flight, and he refuses to use protection. Well, he's already got, a few million narcos and crooked businessmen out there that would just love to see a bullet in his brain. And now he's talking about going after all the graft and waste and corruption. So his list of enemies is only going to grow. I really think this is a policy he needs to rethink.
I think you're right.
How long is his term?
It's one term only, 6 years.
So I'm listening to a Baja California radio station.
Yeah.
Because I like the music they play. So they talk about Mexican politics and elections and so on. How often?
Yeah, it's everything down here is pretty much corrupt, but national politics is very notable because they have 6 or 9 more zeros on the end of the amounts they've stolen. So if he can accomplish nothing else in his 6 years than just to do away with a lot of the waste. That because somebody decides that I have a sister-in-law that has a few $1 million to invest and she wants to start a company. So I think I'll tell her to start a company that sells the service of auditing the performance of teachers. And then I will sponsor this bill to require mandatory auditing of teachers. And then guess what? His sister gets the contract.
Well, and the only companies that are qualified to do that service under the law they fit these certain circumstances. That only her company, yeah.
Must be woman-owned,
Hey, we have stuff like that in our tax code here.
Oh yeah, it's the only difference in the corruption between the U.S. and Mexico is that they're much more blatant here. They at least make some effort to deny it up north.
Yeah. Literally,
and here it's just no comment.
Well, literally, if you look back, especially back in the 70s and 80s, some of the so-called tax reform acts that it required things like that, exactly that sort of thing. If you looked at the requirements to qualify to provide those services to the government, you had to be within certain geographic, like longitude to latitude areas. It's like, oh yeah, there's this one company that would qualify, and what a surprise, they're the right party at that time or whatever.
This happened to have been a major donor.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've only heard what we hear up here about it, but I hope he's successful in getting rid of, problems.
I hope I'm sure he'll have some success. Okay. I mean, it'd be really tough to make things any worse.
Be careful what you ask for.
Be careful what you wish for, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think he's got his head on straight and his heart in the right place, and he definitely has the support of the people. So, and the things that he wants to do are very popular ideas with the general populace, not so much with the folks that have been profiting through all the corruption. So, if you just stay alive for 6 years, he should do some real good.
It's a 6-year long term.
Yeah, and no re-election, just one term.
That's interesting.
What happens a lot? That's a very common thing in Latin America, is either 5 or a 6-year term, no re-election. So what often happens is after somebody finishes their term, their wife or husband runs and gets the next term. So you basically have 2 terms.
The only such laws that I'm familiar with are the ones in Argentina, but they've almost never been followed. Every other presidential term, there's a new coup and a new junta that comes in, and everybody knows about it beforehand, which is the interesting thing. When I lived there, one day I went to school and I was in high school. Everybody was saying, "Oh, there's going to be a coup tonight." Really? That's really good to know.
Kind of like getting an invitation to your surprise party,
that night, sure enough, a bunch of tanks circled the Casa Rosada, the pink house there, and after some number of hours, the then current president said, "Okay, I give up," and that was it.
A bloodless coup, yeah.
Oh gosh, it was.
Yeah, Argentina is kind of cool the way they do those things.
Well, it's funny. They're very cosmopolitan in a lot of ways, but they have the political maturity of like a 3-year-old. I love that country, but it just cracks me up. Their politics are really messed up. So, anyway.
Yeah, I know. Bill is just thrilled that I sidelined into politics there.
That's all right. As long as we avoid, talking about.
Well, it was nonpartisan.
Yeah, it was definitely nonpartisan. And you brought up Secret Service. I have a grandson that just became a Secret Service, a uniformed Secret Service agent. So, it warmed my heart. But I'm intrigued about what Bill said about listening to a Baja station. What you like the music, but you listen to what they talk about too. Do you speak Spanish or is it English language?
No, they speak a variation of English.
What station do you listen to, Bill?
91X.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't know that was. I don't listen to it that much, but I didn't know that was.
It's interesting listening to them speak English because most of the words they get right, and every once in a while there's one where a native of the United States wouldn't have phrased what they said that way.
What type of music is it that you like from there? What do they play?
They play
a little bit of everything. Some norteño.
It's mostly modern music.
They play some rock. They play some norteño.
Yeah. Cool. I'll have to check them out. I've been listening to Apple Music a lot. I just decided to try it. You can try it for free for 3 months, and it's really kind of cool to be able to just get on your phone and say. And I guess you could do this with Androids. There's some similar service from Google, I suppose, and say, "Hey, I haven't thought about the Turtles since I was in high school. Play the Turtles." And sure enough, you're listening to them. That's really fun.
Right. You can get Spotify for free, I think, for a while too.
I think so too. Yeah, I did try that at one point. For some reason, I didn't get to work on my phone, and it wasn't a big deal to me. But I don't know. I'm thinking about dropping my Pandora subscription that I pay for and just going with this. I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. There are a few recording artists who only do streaming music now.
Yeah, like
Chance the Rapper.
Like who?
Chance the Rapper.
Huh, okay.
He
Don't follow rap that much.
You won a Grammy. You won a Grammy last year, so
Oh, okay.
I think he was the first streaming musician to do that.
There is an SEO rapper. You guys may know that. I don't know if you know that.
No, I did not.
There's long ago when I started listening to SEO podcasts. One of them was by this guy down in Houston who had a guy that worked with him that was a rapper, and he did, and it was actually pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm like you. I don't follow a lot of rap.
Some of it's actually probably pretty good. I just don't know. I mean,
yeah, I will recognize that some of them are talented, and I think that it's just I know that some of them actually, they're inventing the lyrics on the fly,
right?
And that's pretty impressive. Okay, because when some of them are pretty good, and to be able to do that on the fly like that, I'll tip my hat to them. But it's not the kind of stuff I like to listen to, and I like just about every. Some of just about everything from classical to folk to jazz, but rap, I have not yet heard anything that even gets my fancy.
I like Chance the Rapper because he mixes a lot of stuff like gospel with rap. He is very creative.
I'll check him out.
Yeah.
Been having fun listening to Zydeco too the last couple of days. I like that. I like peppy music when I'm working.
I'm more of a George Strait kind of guy.
I like it all though. I like George Strait, and I also like Georg Telemann. Speaking of George's,
in the town I lived in Delaware, who had a Zydeco band.
I didn't hear the first part of that. Sorry.
I said I had a guy I knew when I lived in Delaware who had a Zydeco band.
Really? Ah, cool.
Yeah. Don't run into too many Zydeco performers these days.
Delaware?
In Delaware.
Yeah, I would think not. Probably not.
Yeah, my stepdaughter was best friends with George Strait's daughter that got killed in a car accident several years ago.
Oh.
And I mean, I liked his music before. I didn't even realize until that accident that who she was friends with, and she had been over to the house, and I don't think I ever heard her last name, so I never realized.
Never made
just like, hey, Daddy, this is Jennifer. Oh, hi, Jen. And I found out, when she came home all shook up because her friend had died, and he and his wife, that was a rough. Always, for any family that loses a child, that's a rough time. But he felt really destroyed, I think, because he had just finished one tour and was getting ready to go on another one, and had been doing an awful lot of prep for that tour. So he was spending damn little time at home, actually during daylight where he could interact with the family, and he felt really guilty about that. And it was unfounded. I mean, but you feel what you feel.
Yeah. That's too bad. It is sort of amazing when you find out that somebody you know or like a family member knows some celebrity or something like that. It's always sort of surprising. I was reading some fiction last summer, I remember, and they mentioned this group called Weezer. I don't know, the characters in the book were discussing rock groups or something, or groups. And I thought, oh, that's a funny name. And then I learned that my eldest daughter was going to see Weezer play, and she was getting in free because she knows some of the members. I guess they're from Temecula, where she lives, or that area. So, like, oh, really? Interesting.
Small world.
Yeah, it is. Well, let's see. What else is going on? I can't think of any interesting SEO stuff particularly.
I am thinking of one right now. There was a story, Buzz Media, on people publishing things on Forbes website.
Uh-huh.
They're getting paid to mention certain brands.
Yeah, certain brands. It's a very, very political way of stating it.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you can supposedly buy mentions from various people in Forbes and elsewhere. Is that the kind of thing they were talking about?
Those kind of thing they were talking about. Yeah.
I see
Yeah,
ads for stuff like that all the time. I never know if they're legit or not.
HuffPo, BuzzFeed, Forbes. Yeah, and in fact, it's been a very, very open secret for years.
So I remember when Malcolm Forbes was still alive, he would have never put up with that.
Oh yeah. Well, there was a time when Forbes had some real journalistic integrity.
I was just going to say integrity. Yeah. They also had a real dislike of double entry bookkeeping and accounting. I don't know. Since I'm an accountant, that I noticed that along. They used to always have jokes about accounting and stuff in their humor page. And probably I'm the only one that knows that or recognized it. There was this one joke they had one time where, see, how did it go? There's a guy driving along in the country, and he out in the country, and he stopped his car, and there's a farmer standing in a field with a cow next to him, and the guy in the car calls out the farmer and says, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me where I am?" And the farmer says, "Well, yes, I can. You're in a car on a road in the middle of the country in, I think it was, let's say it was Nebraska or something." And the guy in the car says, "Oh, you must be an accountant." And the farmer says, "Well, why do you say that?" He says, "Because you gave me an answer that is absolutely correct and that does me no good whatsoever." I guess you have to be an accountant to appreciate the
To which I'm sure the farmer had a retort.
They were always with with some cause getting on accountants, especially about historical cost basis accounting, which I don't know. I probably have already dragged us into a morass of stuff that only accountants care about now. But that was back actually mostly in the inflationary. Remember in the 70s and 80s, especially the 70s, when inflation was rampant, and there was all kinds of talk about methods of accounting for inventory that were causing earnings results to be, shaded because of how they were, being inventory values were being overstated or understated, and based on that, earnings were being.
I think they call that creative amortization, no?
Well, that's amortization. That's like depreciation. That's a different topic. But you remember the people talked about FIFO accounting and LIFO and all that. That was a big deal back then. So I don't know.
Yeah, I fell victim to that in a company I was working with that they decided to convert to from LIFO to FIFO.
Okay.
And with about 1,600 products on the rack, and most of which you could hold 1,000 of in your hands, which required naturally an inventory by lot number. Oh, it was. I mean, it's like all hands for like 3 months.
Well, if you switch back then, if you switch from LIFO to FIFO, and you were in a time of high inflation, that also meant that your inventory at the end of the period would be valued less than it would have been had you stuck with LIFO.
Mm-hmm.
So your earnings, your cost of sales would have gone up.
Look up, yeah.
And your earnings were down, yeah. And then people talked about NIFO, which was next in, first out, if you were always out of stock. And what was the other one? And there was FISH, FISH, which was if you never were able to sell anything that was first in, still here. So,
So it's not just SEO that has these strange acronyms.
Oh yeah, no,
trust me.
Oh god, yeah. Engineering's got their fair share too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's just a human foible that we like to reduce things down to jargon. Makes it sound more magical if the guy you're talking to doesn't have any clue what you're saying. And if you can rattle off 3 or 4 initialisms in a sentence, then you must be an expert, guru, pro.
Remember, we used to joke about, well, we'll have to reverse the dinegative polarities, and people would look at us like, huh?
It's as much. It's up there with a flux capacitor.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, the problem with those was that you had to find a good source of unobtainium to fill them with. You had to have worked in a chemical company to appreciate that one. I worked in a chem firm for a while. So we were always going to invent unobtainium. Well, I did notice just in the last day or so, something, I think it was probably in one of my local SEO newsletters that I get almost daily, that said that on a recent Google Webmaster Hangout that somebody, probably John Mueller, said that the keyword, meta
keyword
isn't used, which of course is restating something that they've said before. But you remember on a recent Hangout that Steve Plunkett was saying that that's not true?
Yeah, and John, it was John Mueller that said just a couple of days ago, I think Barry Schwartz had it on SEO Roundtable, that John Mueller said something about the fact that, within reason, you can use it. It's not going to do you any harm. But there's something else that he was implying. I don't remember what the question. Do you, Bill?
Keyword stuffing or something?
Someone asked about keyword stuffing. He said, we don't care if you stuff the keyword's meta tag because we don't look at it at all anyway.
Yeah, they don't look at it at all. And yet, Steve was saying that, well, that's not true if you do it within certain parameters. Basically, keywords that related to things that were mentioned in the description meta tag. So, it's interesting. Remember that? That was just in the last week.
I remember him saying it. Yeah, I have to battle with myself. I would rarely challenge Steve, okay? Yeah. But I mean, that's the kind of thing I'd almost have to see that to believe it, because that's...
I don't recall ever seeing anything that said Google cares about what's in your meta description.
No, in fact, just the opposite. That them having said for years that they don't use it, they don't pay attention to it, they won't look at it. And I have heard of some people saying that they, in a test, that they deliberately stuffed the meta keywords, and then they got a penalty. But I remember somebody else looked at the article in question, and the content was stuffed too, so you can't necessarily say that was just the meta tag that got you hammered.
And I've seen sites stuffing things like alt text.
Yeah.
Which
a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen anyone ever get penalized, but I don't think that you can show that there's much benefit from it.
It's so difficult to isolate just about anything anymore.
Yeah.
It's because there's so many indirect factors that can play in. Plus, without knowing how often something is getting updated, when it's a live algorithm,
right.
You can't be sure. If you let this test sit for 2 weeks between changes, or 6 weeks, or 2 months, whether or not you've isolated it or not anyway. So it's just, I'm lazy. It's just easier to follow the damn guidelines.
There are times when it's very visible when somebody's doing something that's wrong, like aggregating reviews. They show on a knowledge panel that they've got 50 reviews, and you go to the page that the review should be on, and you see 3, and you look at the schema markup, and it says right there that there are 50, and say it's not what's on the page.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is obvious and you can see it in action. Sometimes it isn't quite so obvious. And you can't say this is related to that.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Doc. It's really I guess there are ways to do this, but it's very complicated to try to figure out how to game anything and not get caught, and also have it stand up over time. The rate of change is so fast, and there's so many things changing all the time. It's like, I don't know, trying to.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. I was, I don't know, probably 8, 9 years old, something like that. I got caught in a lie, and because I had said one thing, and then when asked about it again later, a few days later, I said something different, and they called me on it. And my dad just explained to me after my punishment had been meted out, he explained to me that it's just a whole lot easier to tell the truth than it is to remember what your last lie was.
Yeah.
There's a famous quote
that served me real well. That's kind of the way I do my SEO too. It's just a whole lot easier to follow the rules.
It's also a pretty good rule for filing your taxes too, by the way.
Yeah, because IRS does have a pretty good memory.
Well, it's very hard to get away with anything. Lord knows for them to get it right when you cheated, much less you haven't. But yeah, I don't know. Although it's a little bit different if Google is saying they don't pay any attention to keywords or the keyword meta tag, and yet somebody like Steve says, well, maybe not, but yet it does seem to have an effect. Then it's interesting to me, and it's not like you're breaking a rule of theirs to try it. You know what I mean? If they're saying they ignore it, then it's not like you're doing something black hat. I haven't had time to fiddle with it, so I don't know if it's doing anything.
Yeah, short of stuffing, you're not breaking the guidelines at all. So,
Lord knows when I would ever have time to fiddle with stuff like that, though.
Yeah, the extent of the testing that I do anymore is minimal, and it's basically just technical stuff. But like, for instance, you talk about Bill's talking about people that are manipulating their schema markup to make things look like something they aren't. That to me is playing with fire.
Wow.
Because I remember Matt saying years ago that when they first came out with that schema org being accepted, that if you try to game this and you get caught, you're gonna lose the ability to ever get back into rich snippets.
Yeah.
If you start manipulating rich snippets, you're going to get hammered long term.
It's interesting when they go out of their way to identify a specific thing like that and say, you will be sorry, as opposed to all the other
We discourage this or don't do this. Yeah.
It is interesting. It almost makes me think, what they're saying is this is an area they don't have a mechanism in place yet for. So they're trying to scare us away. But eventually they will have the mechanism. So, but so actually, let me come back to something you said a moment ago, Bill. I've never really paid any attention to this. In the knowledge panel, you mentioned some number of reviews showing up, and yet just off the top of my head, all I can think of is Google reviews showing up with a count next to them. But I would think that data is coming from Google, not from something in your schema. What am I missing?
There's a way to show aggregated reviews on the page, which end up showing up in search results, individual search results instead.
Oh, okay, in the organic results,
right?
Not in the knowledge panel. I misunderstood. I thought you said in the knowledge panel.
There. I was curious as to how many SEO firms that were local were actually bothering to use schema markup. Yeah. So I started searching for SEO firms local to me that were. And I noticed that there were some that were showing that they had a lot of reviews. Like one said that they had 50 reviews,
Okay.
which sounded a little surprising.
Yeah. And when you say they said that, was it showing up truly in the knowledge panel for that firm, or was it showing up in the organic listings?
I think it was showing in the organic listings for them.
Okay, that I could understand.
Yeah, so I went to their site to try to find those,
Oh yeah.
and I found 3 on their site.
Okay.
But in the scheme, it said that there were 50.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That's I could understand that. I think I misunderstood you a moment ago when you were talking about it. So yeah, it's just now I use these tools like now lately I'm using Get 5 Stars that create the results that I'm putting on the website on a reviews page, and it generates the schema. And I don't always go back and check all those for accuracy. I probably should more than I do, but I've never had a problem with those. I wouldn't begin to try to game that stuff though.
And the guys who create the Get 5 Stars wouldn't try to sell you something that games those.
I don't see why they would, especially actually that product. They're nearly real religious zealots about getting everything the way that Google mandates, so which is probably healthy. So
it's good to be a zealot about that stuff.
I did go back. Actually, this came up on the dojo last week or the week before. I don't remember when. Steve Plunkett, that he used. I think it was reviewsmanager.com, and Anne mentioned that she uses podium.com or Podio. I think it's podium.com.
Podio, I believe it is. No, Podium. You're right. It's Podium.
So I actually looked at both of those. I spent a lot of time, actually did a short call with Podium. Man, that's expensive. Wow.
Yeah,
and for my purposes only, I didn't see that it brought much to the party. And then I just looked at the website for Reviews Manager, and that actually looked interesting. The prices weren't outlandish. Did either of you look at those?
I did not. I've been using a plugin that's free, but it's only for building, adding, and marking up reviews on your own site.
Mm-hmm. Which would you?
WP Customer Reviews, which works very well.
Okay. And how does that handle the solicitation? Does it send emails out?
No. This is just a matter of having a create a review.
Oh, a button
link on your site.
Got it. Okay.
Also, I've got all my reviews, testimonials on a page, and up at the top there's a create a review.
Got it.
And it's handy, but no, there's no solicitation of them out there.
Does it go out and on a regular basis harvest reviews that it finds online so that?
No, this is strictly on the site.
What I mean is, though, when you add them, so you're listing the reviews on the site, right, on the page?
Right.
How are they getting there? Are you going out manually getting them then?
I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you a link here in the chat so you can take a look at the page that's on.
Okay. This website uses cookies.
Yes, it does.
I haven't looked at your site for a little while. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah, so these that are showing up, okay, by Bill Bean on blank business name. Okay, so are these Google reviews or are these?
These are reviews that are actually created here on my site.
On the site, so they're first party reviews, or so-called first. Okay, got it. All right, now I understand.
And you see at the top there, you got to create your own review.
I do. It's a shiny silver button.
Yeah.
I see. Interesting. Yeah. So sort of testimonials then.
Yeah, but that's nothing. There's nothing offsite about it. It doesn't look at Google or Yext or any of these others.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I, we may agree or disagree about this, but I've really focused a lot on trying to get people to leave reviews on Google and to a much lesser degree Facebook and elsewhere, for the sake of um, helping results both in terms of ranking, but also in terms of getting people to then choose the client to click on when they see them in the SERPs. But I tend to also then show those reviews on the client site. So that's what I was wondering about, because the software I'm using actually goes and fetches all those and puts it into a widget that I can then embed on the site.
Mm-hmm.
One of those. So I was misunderstanding basically the way that you were doing it, or the type that you were doing. A link there. Let's see. Now that I've got 94 tabs open in Chrome.
Only.
Yeah, well, I'm cutting that back. So there's the link for what I was talking about. So I tend to not show testimonials as much as I used to, because it's I don't know. It can appear self-serving in some ways, at least I think. But
I'm getting
anyway,
a 502 on that link, Tim.
let's see, did it? Oh, yeah. Welcome to my country blocking stuff. You're in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
I have to actually. Okay, I'm making a note.
That's okay. I'll just
the geo blocking.
go incog.
Does that block the IP as well?
I'm gonna have to spoof it. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not saying that the way I'm doing it is the only way to do it, but I like it. I like to display those when they're third-party review sites like Google, as far as not now the ranking effect so much as just the impression that they create, because there's a social proof element, a psychological element to reviews that have been posted on third-party sites.
Yeah. I can see that. I've never bothered to acquire any reviews elsewhere, so
I think there's a ranking benefit and a psychological benefit. More and more, maybe this is obvious, but I tell people my job is to help you rank in the results, but also have people choose you from those results that they see. And having all those pretty review stars on there, at least you influence those in the knowledge panel at least.
Well, it helps the CTR for sure. It draws the eye. So
there's another one of those TLAs. So, I was intrigued if you had a free plugin. Had you had one that actually went out and harvested those third-party reviews, I was interested in seeing that, but I misunderstood. That's not what you were talking about. That's one of the elements of using these tools like Get 5 Stars or other ones that unfortunately you lose the benefit of that when you stop the subscription. So, unless you move to something else that has equal capabilities. So, anyway, did I drag us down a rabbit hole that was too deep there? Way down, deep dive. Doc, you look puzzled.
No, I was looking at something else because I just got a pop-up message.
Oh.
I'm back.
Yeah, I get
Sorry
those
about
too.
that. I get distracted so easily.
Yeah. Oh, we're like, I think we're all like that. Ooh, shiny balls.
Yeah, butterfly.
Yeah. Well,
I got this morning. I got an email, first one I've gotten of my sites being enabled for mobile first, and it was
I got a number of those too. Interesting.
strangely enough, it was my Australian site,
Really?
and then within an hour I got a second one for a U.S. site, which is probably my second most neglected site in terms of fresh content. I don't think I've posted over there in probably 3+ years, but at least it's mobile capable now. So, but none of my other sites. I got 15 sites, and none of the others have been picked up for
I've
mobile.
begun getting them, but today I just happened to get like 3. I don't know what their rationale is. I'll be watching to see if there's much of a difference in visitor traffic now.
Well, the other thing is to get notified that mobile first was enabled for these 2 sites took a total of 8 email messages.
Oh, you mean they
Possibly more by now since we started this hangout. I haven't checked my email, but I got 4 for each of them within a period of an hour.
I don't know if I got that many, but I got several. Yeah.
Well, I thought, oh, okay, they're hitting all my sites, and I started looking at the message and said, no, they're hitting each site 4 damn times.
Well, you know what it is? It's because of the 4 variants that you set up.
Exactly. I'm sure that I haven't double checked that URL, but that is probably exactly what it is.
I noticed that. I after I got the second or third one for one of my sites, I went back and looked, and one was, HTTP and no www, and then one was HTTP with the www, and then one was the S with and without the 4. So, and I don't know if it's really necessary to go set up all 4 variants in GSC. Some people say you don't need to, but I guess I always have just thought it was being thorough. What do you think?
That is exactly what it was. It was those 4 variants. Okay. That makes me feel a little better, I guess.
What do you guys think? Is it worthwhile setting up all 4 in GSC and picking a preferred out of the 4 of them? Or?
I do, yeah.
Didn't Google say, or somebody from Google say a couple weeks ago that they would start doing one GSC entry with the root domain?
I didn't understand. You cut out.
They were saying they made an announcement saying that for GSC you would just have to submit the root domain.
Oh, that'd be great.
Variations.
That'd be great. I did not see that. Did they say it was going to be effective soon, or that it was already effective, or
that it would be effective soon? They didn't say when.
Okay.
I assume we'd still be able to choose our preferred www, non-www version.
And
I would assume so, yeah.
Secure or not. Speaking of which, has anybody seen a difference? Let's see. I just thought of that. Let me look at some of my old clients that have opted not to go HTTPS and see if they are. I wonder if they're beginning to be marked as not secure.
Yes, they are. Yeah, because I've got a couple of new clients that are showing up that way.
I got so many mine to convert that I can't find one that didn't. Interesting. Huh. Well, now, it must not be. That's interesting. So my own website, which I use only for my personal email domain, calling.com, is not, it's on an old, I almost am embarrassed to say it, an old HostGator server. It's not SSL enabled, and it doesn't show not secure. Interesting. It's not like emblazoned there saying only fools would enter here. It's not secure. Interesting. I wonder why not.
I thought we had another month or so to go with that.
I thought it was going to be effective right away in July, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I just saw in the last couple days 2 new clients who I'm doing a conversion for that are still HTTP, where they actually had a little yellow flag up there in the address bar. But I see your site. Yeah, it's just nothing more than the
Calling.com.
eye in the circle.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know why. Let me think of some other ones to test. Well, I could go on for a long time. Yeah, I know I've still got a few that we're doing just website services only for now. That didn't convert. Oh well. Well, maybe calling.com has been around so long that it's getting away with it under some grace period or something. Who knows? I suppose they could do that if they chose to. I'm not sure why.
Got grandfathered in there, right?
It serves no purpose other than to be the host for my email these days. I used to hang my pottery collecting website off of there, but I don't do that anymore.
So I've been updating all the links, the old links on my site that have linked to my site with HTTP to HTTPS because they go through redirects. When people leave a comment or something like that, I'm down from 2,000 or so to 1,500.
Wow.
It's a lot of work.
Wow. So what are they doing? This is where somebody left a comment with an HTTP address in it,
and they've changed the address to HTTPS.
Okay, but
I'm using a broken link checker to keep track of them. Tell me which ones I haven't changed.
Okay, but couldn't you just use something like better? What is it called? Better search and replace plugin that assuming it's a WordPress website, and just do a search and replace problem.
It's easier just to do a redirect, I would think.
It's easier to do the redirect. I want to get rid of all the redirects that are on my site.
Yeah.
No.
Well, but if you convert, so you're just arbitrarily converting them all. What if one of them actually is pointing to a site that hasn't converted to SSL? Won't that give you a mixed?
I'm using a broken link checker to tell me that it has changed. It's going through redirect. So I'm not just arbitrarily changing them.
Okay, so if they drop an HTTP link for a site that is not converted to SSL, then it would not change it.
Right. If they dropped an HTTP link 5 years ago and it's still on my site,
it would not change it.
It would not change it.
Okay.
It was a redirect. So I'm changing those manually.
What about ones that are just broken because the site no longer exists? Are you also removing those?
I'm removing those, right. Because I know there are lots of blog sites that have broken links, and sometimes people change purposes for sites, so they're no longer the same thing. They may have been once upon a time, yeah. Guys, we're getting close to the top of the hour.
We've had a pretty quiet conversation today. Without Terry here, it's been really calm. The language has been pretty good. We could all say a dirty word, each of us, just to keep the spirit up. or not.
Wait.
We can say a curse word. No. Well, it's been nice talking with you guys.
Good talking to you. And Doc, I'm looking forward to that hangout next week.
Yep. Should be a good one.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good one. All right. Well, happy 4th of July for all those who celebrate.
Yep. Be safe. Be happy. And don't forget your dogs are going to be whining the night through with fireworks.
Or cats or whatever.
I don't know about the cats, if the cats really care enough about anything that's not cat related, but I know my dog is always going nuts when there's fireworks.
Yeah, it's tough on them.
There's a resort right down the street from me. They have big fireworks show for 4th of July, and try to see if I can get some of that on camera.
Yeah, you can step out your balcony. You don't have to pay any admission. I can actually step out of my balcony and watch the fireworks in San Diego. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Was it Tim?
have a good one.
Oh, you too.
Take care, Tim.
I know.
Bill, later.
I'll see you.